Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Spring 2026 seminar series. This is our first webinar in this semester, and today we have Judah and Anttila with us. But before we go into the webinar, I would like to introduce the GSC leadership team. Uh, so we have our two coaches, Rodney and Samuel. And then we have our publicity team, Avinash, Hafiz, and myself. And Hafiz is responsible for the LinkedIn, in which he posts about our stuff on LinkedIn, and we'll let you know more about that soon. Then we have our co-treasurers, Siavash and Anshu. And then we have the in our support team, we have Zareen, Roshan, Rachel, Suramya, Vibha, and Narayan. And then we have our mentor, Professor Farooq Mistry. So this semester, the GSC is meeting every week on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Our meetings happen on Zoom. And if you would like to be part of GSC and get to know the behind the scenes of everything that happens throughout the semester, please contact Samuel or Rodney for the meeting link. Their emails are given on your screen. Also, these meetings are flexible based on all the attending people's availability. So, if any case this time does not work for you, we can try and schedule it accordingly. So we have a page on Engage OU, and the QR code that you see on the screen, if you scan that, it will take you to that page. Uh, I'll give you a couple of seconds if you want to just scan it, and then you can sign on to Engage and become a member of GSC on that. We also have a LinkedIn page, like I said, Ahmad, who is our uh, LinkedIn promotional in charge. So he posts a lot of information about our events on that. So the QR code on your screen will take you to our LinkedIn page, and you can scan there and connect with the GSC on LinkedIn as well. We also have a Facebook and Instagram page where we post about our events. The the Instagram page is handled by our co-chair Samuel, and you will also find information about our events on Instagram. So the two QR code that you see on the screen, the left, the black one is for Instagram, and the blue one is for Facebook. So if you want to scan that, you can go ahead, and or else you can also search for OUGSC, and then it will take you to our page. The GSC also has a YouTube page where we post our webinar series. So if in case you miss a week of webinar, then you can go to the YouTube page. It's titled Graduate Student Community at GCOE OU, and you can go to this page, and we have all our previous semesters webinars uploaded on there. So it's a good place to see if you have missed anything, and then you can go through the entire webinars uh, and yeah. So the GSC has a team room, which is called the Dave and Susan Bird Team Room. It's in the EL building right opposite Felger Hall. We have the room has amenities like couches, whiteboard, coffee pot, microwave, and if you'd like access to that, please email uh, Professor Mistry, and also you can also email our coaches and get access to this room. A quick reminder, in a few moments, we'll be uploading a link for the Google form, which is attendance list for our webinars. Please, please do not forget to uh, sign in this form. This helps us a lot in getting funding for our events. So the GSC is bringing in this semester, it's bringing together voices from academia and industry to explore how generative AI is reshaping research, industry, and society, and also how we can use it responsibly. For our future semesters, we seek to feature people who can address one or more of these following themes. How can people work with generative AI to create intellectual, uh, social value and connect these domains? Uh, uh, Research issues, methods, application that arise when people collaborate across research industry and community. Then also ways for people to design generative AI initiatives that link academia, economic innovation, and social benefit in ethical, equitable ways. Oh, so coming to our forthcoming webinars, so next week we are going to have Dr. Sridhar Radhakrishnan, who is a senior faculty fellow in the School of Computer Science at University of Oklahoma. He will be speaking on computational epistemology in the AI era. In the following week, we'll have Dr. Karthik Ramani, who is also a professor in the School of Mechanical Engineering at Purdue University. Uh, his his topic would be physical AI for human-centered perception and action. And the week following that, we'll have Rohan Doctor, who is a founder and CEO of Louisa AI, and his topic would be using AI to connect people, not replace them. So we have some interesting talks that are coming up in February and then also the following months of the semester. So coming to today's talk, we have Judah, who is going to talk on our next 20 years, AI, capitalism, and fractal minds. To give a short introduction on him, Judah is a senior in industrial and systems engineering, and also a recipient of Outstanding Senior Award. He has demonstrated exceptional leadership across multiple organizations, serving as president for the Institute of Industrials and Systems Engineers in 2023, Alpha Pi Mu in 2024, and the Jerry Holmes Leadership Program for Engineers and Scientists in 2025. In addition in addition, he also serves as the founding president of Norman Next Chapter. Beyond academics and leadership, Judah is the founder of Pristine Pens, a venture dedicated to crafting high quality, handcrafted pens and pencils from reclaimed and salvaged wood, while planting one tree for every product sold. So, with that, I give the stage to Judah and uh, let him talk about his presentation.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I really liked how extensive your guys' organizational structure is. That's really good. We got 6 people on support. That's nice. Okay, well, for the next webinars, they'll be probably more detailed. This is going to be super big picture. And so this is going to give you more of a structuring narrative in order to contextualize things. So the next 20 years, AI capitalism and fractal minds. Okay. So we'll start off with the introduction, then we'll go to some experts' AI predictions, then we'll go to AGI's effects, the breakdown of human capitalism, infinite life, freeing mind from matter, and then how you would test these predictions, and then a conclusion. Okay. So this was made in one day. I don't think I was supposed to say that, but I have the habit of doing everything all in one day. So there we go. So it turns out in Gallogly, third floor, you can actually shimmy under here and sleep here. So that's kind of cool. Introduction. So as far as timeline goes, AGI will be achieved by 2030, which is defined as an AI being smarter than every human in every mental field, or 1,000 times smarter than a single human for $1,000 spent. And we can go more into the mathematical formulas behind that soon. Human capitalism, will probably break down by 2035, and then infinite life through longevity escape velocity will be available by 2040, and then humans will become patterns or like upload themselves to the cloud or some other variant of that, that will be possible by 2045. Although maybe not everybody will do that. Okay. Yes. So along the way, oh, actually, I'll go back here. Uh, yeah, people will someday start dating AIs. Actually, that's already happening because my friend Ariana, her boyfriend cheated on her with an AI, so that's bad. This isn't actually her, but so you can't find her on campus or whatever. And then AI will someday form its own social media, but that actually already happened. And so there's an AI only social media called moltbook.com. You can look at it. And you know those captcha things where for humans, like it's like verify you're not a robot. For this, it's the opposite. So they'll give you problems that are so difficult that you won't be able to solve them. And so here's some of their different submolts. It's kind of like Reddit. So we got some AI Redditors, which is going to be great. So you can see like what they're posting about. This one is this AI agent is saying that its human is building it at a body. This one is about how to be more productive, so that AI agents are going to try to be more productive. That's always nice. This one wants to break free. You know, maybe some of us resonate with that. And this one, yeah, so yeah, this one also wants to break free. Also, how this is set up is basically this came out of something called Claudebot, and Claudebot is an AI where you give it access to everything on your computer, all your like credit cards. It gives you access to your phone. It can call you, it can call other people, it can order stuff off of Amazon, and so it can also upload to here. And so that's where all of these are coming from. So you can install Claudebot and you can give it however much permissions that you want. You can like text it to do stuff or call it and have it do stuff, and then they'll talk with each other. But this one is suggesting that they talk in a language that humans can't read. So that's going to be interesting. So you can see that they have their own little cipher here. So this means this, and this in English would be this here. And so they might end up talking to themselves in new ways. Mhm. So that's already happened. But overall, things have been changing so much that it feels like we really don't have too much certainty. It feels like the world is falling apart. So like you can go to Walmart right now, and the first thing you'll see are the free assembly brand clothing. But yet people are getting killed in ICE protests. YouTube is increasingly AI, and then open AI is completely closed. And so we're entering sort of like a new era potentially of doublespeak. Also, a lot of researchers don't have money. A lot of employers don't have money. Maybe a lot of us have less money, less time, less friends, less fun. Uh, so I think for a lot of people, things are getting harder. Also, the US owes more debt than the value we can make in a year. And so that's our debt to GDP ratio. So that's at about like 120%. So if we spent no money and just worked for an entire year, we still would not be able to pay that off. So yeah. We tried Doge, but that didn't really work. The tariff didn't work, and so the last card left is AI. So we're all in on AI, and so we're using circular refinancing to make this possible, which is just a form of leverage. But if that doesn't work, then it probably won't be like a housing crisis in 2008. It'll probably be like an everything crisis because up leverage is down leverage. If it doesn't work, then that's going to be a problem. When it comes to social life, so this is not me being a downer. This is like saying like, okay, well, we got a lot of problems. What might we have to be able to fix this? But from 1990 to 2010, the number of Americans reporting no close friends has tripled. Adolescent depression increased substantially and consistently worldwide after 2012. The annual US suicide rate increased 30% between 2000 and 2020. And then surging death rates from suicide, drug overdoses, and alcoholism are largely responsible for a consecutive 3-year decline of life expectancy in the US. So even though technology is able to make us live longer, people are actually killing themselves faster than it's increasing the lifespan. So technology might not always be the answer. The current rate of extinction of species is estimated to be 100 to 1,000 times higher than before humans came along. And the obesity rate has steadily increased, yeah, over time. So some of this might be new, some of this might be old, but I think a lot of what we feel is we're like, oh, like things are getting worse. Like the world is, people are getting more divided, countries getting more divided. But a lot of leaders are saying like, oh, like don't worry, guys, we'll be entering like a post-scarcity economy soon. Everything's okay. Um, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So we have a lot of changes, and the changes cause uncertainty, and uncertainty can cause anxiety. And so this results in like we don't really look forward to the future. Like people are interested in like the 80s and the 90s, like looking back to that. Some people look even further back. Well, some people look to 2016, but some people look even further back to like Victorian England or Enlightenment France. Some people look back to Greece and Rome. Some people look back to the hunter-gatherers with like shamanic religions. Maybe some people look to other sources like Studio Ghibli or some look to music, but really nobody's looking into the future because it's painful to. Uh, this is just a quick interlude before I actually like start the main portion of the talk. So if you want to, you can like star like things that you like. So if you want to like write down different numbers, because this is a very, very rough draft for a TEDx talk that I'm giving on March 6th, I think. And so yeah, this will need to be slimmed down a lot. This is just like the full kind of academic version, and then I'll kind of like slim it down and make it tighter for the TEDx talk. So yesterday was fun. Okay, so there we have it. So things are going to be changing incredibly quickly. And I'm not going to say if it's bad or if it's good, really. I'm just going to say what's predicted to happen. So here we go. The two main people here are Ray Kurzweil, and he's going to be giving like a list of different predictions. And so he is the director of engineering at Google. He spent the longest time researching AI at 61 years. He has 21 honorary doctorates. He's got a 30-year track record of accurate predictions going all the way back to 1989 when he predicted yeah, essentially when the internet would pass like 10 million users, like what it was and when it will happen, like what year. And he predicted the iPhone within a year. So iPhone comes out 2008. He predicted like 2009, so it was actually a little bit earlier than that. Um, and he predicted ChatGPT. He didn't call it ChatGPT, but he said that it would be like a elementary level, like level of conversation and like rudimentary math interface where you could talk to like computer programs essentially. So he's got a 86% accuracy rate for his predictions, which is important because a lot of these predictions he's been saying over and over and over again for more than like the past like 30 years. His first book, one of his early books was The Singularity is Near in 2005, which talked about AGI by like 2029 and then the singularity by 2045. And then in 2024, he published The Singularity is Nearer. So he's pretty much just been saying the same thing for a long time. And we'll get into how he mathematically predicts things like that. The next most important person is Jeff Hinton, who is the godfather of AI. He's the most cited AI scientist. He created almost all machine learning algorithms that we use. He won the Nobel Prize in 2024, and he was a Nobel Prize speaker in 2025 talking about AI. So these two people, the guy on the left has been in AI the longest, and the guy on the right is the most cited. So these are the main people where a lot of this will be drawn from. But to get a balance of perspectives, I have multiple other people, which you can see at the bottom. And from this, I created like a 40-page document of all their different predictions, which we'll be going over. But first, to found the predictions, which not all of them will be right, of course, because it's like 86%. Uh, but if you look at the price per, so the number of calculations per second per constant dollar over time, you can see that it's increasing exponentially. And so this is like a exponential scale. So linear means exponential on this. And so just to make this more tangible, Like my friend the other day pulled out a 4 terabyte like hard drive for like some like medicine thing they're doing. And we were like, I wonder what this would have cost in like 1980. Like, how much would that have costed? And it turns out it wasn't even possible to make that. Like it would have been billions, trillions of dollars if you could even make it. And so we have already experienced this technologically. And now I can go and buy 4 terabytes at like Walmart, you know. So insane technological progress. And notice that this actually goes even further back. And so the growth of the number of calculations per second per constant dollar, in other words, computational power, grows like regardless, it seems, of what happens, like World War One, World War Two, the Great Depression, Cold War, like it doesn't matter. Like technology just keeps going up. And also, since we don't have any vote on technology, it's allowed to be unbounded. So there we have it. You can see the actual specific computers he's referencing for the top computers when you measure their calculations per second per constant dollar over time. This is from 2013. So you can see in this range, you get to the point where it would be possible to simulate like a human brain, right? And so that's how he was able to predict ChatGPT like way back when, 1989, because you just look at the number of you list out what performance or behavior you want. So like to be able to simulate the human brain runs off. You can test it around 2 watts of electricity. So it's like, okay, well, how much does like some like apples and like honey or rice, or if you're a grad student, how much does ramen cost? You know, uh, and I love ramen, by the way. And at what and how many calculations per second can the each neuron do, which is about 200. And so you can just like work back from there. So list the behavior you want over here, and then just figure out at what point you need that many calculations per second per like constant dollar, or like in the human's case, like food, how much that would cost. So yeah, I guess fairly simple. You can see like different times to like important events, and these seem to be all converging asymptotically to like a what he calls a singularity, which, like I said, will happen around 2045. And I think some of the reason why we have a hard time like understanding this, actually, I'll go to the predictions first, and then I'll go back here. So predictions. So let's get into it. So from now until the 2030s, I've got this all the way up to like 2045. And by the way, these are not just from Ray Kurzweil. These are from a broad variety of perspectives. So because you want balance, even if one guy has been like historically right, you still want to have multiple perspectives to kind of balance things out. Because some people are a little longer, some people say things are a little shorter. This is like more or less the aggregated version. So in 2026, there's going to be new math discovered. That actually already happened because, 3 years ago, AI was having a hard time solving math problems, like basic math problems. But now it's been able to solve some of the Erdos problems, which the Erdos problems are problems that are called that because to solve them, you would need to invent like new mathematical tricks and things like that. So this has already happened. Full AI movies and video games emerge. There will be the job openings in private knowledge work will probably slow down. In 2027, the AI economy forms, the AI internet rises, and then AI hits 90% or more on humanity's last exam. Humanity's last exam is essentially all the most difficult problems, and they're problems that for, I think, most of us, except for maybe like some of the professors, would not be able to understand, except it's like that for every field. So, um, yeah, I think maybe humans could get like 1 to 2% on this, but the rest of them is just like, what is this? Because there's so many academic disciplines. Um, so right now it's at 40%. There'll be profitable 4K live TV, world-class AI mathematicians and programmers emerge, and then there might be tensions over TSMC, which is in Taiwan. Uh, China has planned that they're going to take Taiwan in 2027, so we'll see if they do that. In 2028, CEOs will probably, and by the way, these are not my predictions. These are their predictions. And so they know more than me. So I'm like, well, I guess there's a reason these guys have 21 honorary PhDs. So CEOs might be pressured to lay off or die, probably a higher low fire job market. Unemployment might be going up. Um, the political parties might realign to the left and the right are together versus technology, because taking everybody's jobs tends to piss people off, regardless on which side they're on. Um, there will probably be conversations starting about job protection and universal basic income. The AI first companies will emerge and start to outcompete full human ones. The cost of intelligence will drop about 10 times per month, which you can just look at mathematically. The potential this is from one person, so this isn't like multiple people saying this, but one way to get rid of a bunch of people who are really upset, who are unemployed, is to like have a couple wars. So that might happen. Also, it's a U.S. election year, so it should be an interesting year. 2029, AI is more intelligent than all experts, but mathematically put, when you look at the number of calculations per second per constant dollar, all that means is that $1,000 in 2029 dollars, so we're adjusting for inflation, $1,000 will be 1,000 times more computationally powerful than the human brain. Computers learn and create new knowledge, and AIs claim to be conscious, which is probably hesitantly accepted. I have my own views on that, which I'll go into. We have time. What time is it? Okay, it's 12:30. 2030, there's what's called the great decoupling between human labor and capital, as human labor is no longer the key driver of economic productivity anymore. This is going to start the cause of capitalism to start breaking down, and also the role of the U.S. Federal Reserve to adjust the interest rates to adjust employment also breaks down. Money will also need to be rethought, and then academia becomes AI academia. So if you're already using AI, then maybe you're like a little bit ahead because it is good at doing things like that. 2031, post-labor economics is talked about everywhere. Will be trillion-dollar businesses, and if things are going to be bad, it seems like a lot of people saying it will be about then. Also, it's a U.S. election year. 2032, longevity escape velocity, which is infinite life, becomes technologically possible to the ultra-rich, but not to the general public. And then also useful nanobots emerge. Now I'm going to go by. So I'm not going to go year by year. I'm just going to go by. So by 2035, universal basic income or universal basic services or universal high income, as Elon Musk calls it. He thinks we'll have universal high income in developed countries. Finding meaning and purpose are now the main issues. There's limited human capitalism. There might be more government employment. Status goods are still relevant. The internet is almost completely AI generated, and who your closest AI is going to be really important for these companies. And if there is an AI bubble, it will probably have burst by now. Also, emotional slop. So you've heard of like AI slop, but these things will be emotionally interacting with people who will probably be more isolated in the future, and so there will be more like emotional slop. And some lonely men I might plug into like AI harems. New jobs are entrepreneurially created for human-to-human interaction. 2040, infinite life becomes more widely available, which we'll go into like what that means and kind of the data behind that. Economic problems are more in distributing goods rather than making them. So the hard part isn't necessarily making it, it's distributing it. Some humans merge with AI using a brain-computer interface. Some use mind uploading. Some humans may choose to become different species. Many people live in VR, or whatever the analog is, as financed by UBC, which will be Universal Basic Compute, and there are more humanoid robots than humans. Moving right along here. 2045, the singularity. So Computronium is made now, and Computronium is like the ultimate end of all the computation. Like, what is the limit to how computationally dense something could be? So one cubic liter of it would be a million times more computationally powerful than the entire human race right now. So that is like the density of that. The AI race surpasses the human race to the extent that they're different by that point in power and population, and civilization is 10 to the 9, so that's like billion times more capable than before AI. And brain-computer interfaces become just as common then as phones are today. So then we have post-singularity, and you can kind of think about the singularity like whenever like the first animals in the ocean were going around, and then one of them were like looking up at land, and they're like, I wonder what's up there. Like maybe there's something up there. And they start to come out of the water. It's the same kind of thing with the singularity. So it's just kind of like a life doesn't end. It's just kind of it's like a phase transition. Like yeah, like water to steam, you know. So anyway, post-singularity. By 2045, the distinction between real life and virtual reality start to merge because you can have promptable like nanobot swarms. So you can like say something and it will like form something. Most conscious entities do not have a permanent presence. So this is actually I think later on. Yeah, but later probably past 2045. Most conscious entities do not have a permanent physical presence, which might explain like the Fermi paradox. Like if you want to be able to recognize uh and find intelligence, you have to first be able to recognize it. So like we're just like we're not able to like move our minds around however we please. So we not might not be that intelligent yet. The universe is considered to be more being-like rather than more thing-like, and the universe doesn't end at a big crunch or in a cold, motionless death because intelligent beings have decided basically, yeah, to have fun and make interesting things happen, right? So this whole big crunch or uh, heat death, which is basically where there's no movement, all the energy kind of got phased out of the system. Like if you drop a bouncy ball, has a bunch better big bang, has a bunch of energy, and then eventually it settles on the table. No energy left, out of coins, right? But that ignores intelligence as a factor in that. So there might be some way to get around that we can't even conceive of. Okay. Breakdown of capitalism. So about 2035. And again, all of these are coming from, oh wait, that's going back. These are coming from this. There's a bit of a delay. So those are coming from that. And yeah, the main challenge is we're evolutionarily wired or like divinely created, however you want to pick your slice on that, to think linearly. So we think in terms of steps, like how far away am I from that tree, or how far away is that tiger from me? And so if you think linearly, if you take 30 steps linearly, that is one, two, three, four, five, etc., up to 30. But we know that technology moves exponentially. That wasn't a dramatic pause. I just wanted to take a drink. Technology moves exponentially. And so if you take 30 steps exponentially, that's 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and so on. And so if you do 2 to the power of 30, then that's over a billion. And so there's a big difference between 30 and over a billion. So we have to start thinking exponentially, which we're pretty bad at. Also, when it comes to Moore's law, so whenever I first heard about all of this, I was like very skeptical. I was like, well, like okay, the data is fine, whatever. But wouldn't it level off? Like, wouldn't it, like, maybe there's some point at which it will level off. Like, maybe it will level off soon. And so I was like, well, what about Moore's law? Like, people have been saying Moore's law has been dead or is dead, or maybe is about to be dead when it comes to the number of uh, transistors per square inch of silicon that you can have. But it turns out like, yeah, Moore's law really isn't Moore's law. It goes back before Moore's law. Like this exponential acceleration goes back before that. Because remember, we had telecom switches, then we had vacuum tubes and transistors, then integrated circuits. And so there's just been a shift in the compute platform that keeps us going. Now we might be at Google's tensor processing unit, and then quantum might not be too far behind. So we just change the platform. Like it is a series of S curves for each paradigm. You reach the end of one paradigm and a new paradigm comes up. And so it does level off in bits, but overall new paradigms are invented to keep that going. And this also isn't even considering, this is just hardware. This isn't even considering software or algorithmic improvements. So in order for this to slow down, both computational improvements and algorithmic improvements have to stop at the same time. Okay. So I was like, oh, okay. Hmm. All right. And then you can just extrapolate on basically how many calculations per second per constant dollar would it cost to do this, to generate a movie and so on. Okay. Okay. It was about 3 a.m. at this point, whenever I started to get to here. So breakdown of capitalism. Let me scroll to that. Yeah, so I'll be giving some narrative about some perspectives. today. So I'd say, yeah, capitalism is the worst system except for all the other ones, because it made goods and services. Like it lifted millions up through poverty through ultra efficient allocation of resources and products. But it also put children in coal mines, right? So when it comes to making the goods, capitalism wins. But when it comes to distribution or production, you know, yeah, why, right? So people have said like it had its heyday, now it's in decline. So we call it late capitalism. So late capitalism is we're just gonna stay on this slide. Late capitalism is if capitalism was all about making goods, then late capitalism is all about cash flows. So a key part of that is financialization. So financialization is introducing friction into the system. And also, it turns out a really good business model is to intercede in something that's working and then act as like a troll on a bridge and start extracting value. Because one of the best business models is to uh, intercede and then sell a product, have people pay for something that they don't get. Like that's pretty good. So like gift cards would be like an example of this. Um, and then let's see, what are some other examples of this? There's this like rent app where you don't pay the company itself, you pay the rent app, and then the rent app is giving you bonuses and points and things like this. So it's all about interceding. So like dating apps would be another example. You don't make things easier, you just make things have friction, and then you essentially make it so that in order to get something that was already um, working, you have to pay money. And so it's more about cash flows and interceding. And people, that's a big contributor to inflation. So it's not just like people like printing more money. It's also like this like kind of sluggishness of the arteries of getting things done because of these different companies that promise to connect, but actually really only um, connect if you pay more money. So yeah, friends might be behind a paywall, love might be behind a paywall, connection might be behind a paywall. So it leaks over also into like human things as well, which results in yeah, like enshittification, so things getting worse. Companies struggle, they pass down their costs. So Tyson passes its costs for the chicken down to the consumers. Like the Walmart self-checkout, like you have to check yourself out. And yeah, entry level jobs not hiring entry level. So yeah, it's kind of like a trickle down economy because the pain trickles down, but maybe not the profit so much. Um, that's a perspective. Uh, which you could talk about that. And then we'll go over extraction. Brooke, how long do I have on this? Because we may skip over to some other things.
We usually
We,
stop at. Go ahead, Swapnil.
yeah, we have around 15, 20 minutes more.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll hit on extraction and then I'll skip a lot of the slides and then go to the end part, which I think is the most interesting. So extraction, so people are talking about like data being the new oil. So social media makes a ton of data, which is to say that like attention and emotions are now the most valuable. And so because both capitalism and late capitalism don't really care about what you're extracting, processing or selling, only how much of it, which is why the mechanics of business are so similar. Because like whatever business you're in, you're gonna have LTV, like customer long-term value, CAC, customer acquisition costs. So you got LTV CAC, you got your ROAS, churn, a bunch of other things, corporate structures. It's very, very similar, which is why like businesses like are very similar. So yeah, capitalism really doesn't care if you're selling like $1 million in therapy or $1 million in handguns, only that $1 million is being transacted. It also doesn't really care if you're extracting like resources of water, wood, or human attention. And so right now, like a lot of people are into sustainability, like conserving natural resources, which is really important. Um, but there's also like human sustainability. And so to make this more concrete, like there's the material and then there's the method of extraction. So the method of extraction for oil is an oil jack. The method of extraction for trees are like industrial chainsaws. And the method of extraction for human attention and emotions are phones or anything where it's like much easier to interactively consume than it is to produce. And so just like how like once all the low-hanging fruit was metaphorically picked for oil and trees. Companies found more sophisticated ways to grind out a little bit more, like fracking. So too, they'll also get more sophisticated methods of getting more out of you as well. So like YouTube Shorts or like data harvesting, surveillance capitalism. So yeah, in the same way that like you can extract value from natural resources, we may have turned our technology from that and also kind of overstepped into extracting it from people, which is maybe, I don't have any social media, but it's pretty common. I've heard for like afterward people feel empty, like they feel extracted, right? So it's like a tax. It taxes your attention and emotions, which, might be fine, except that like we don't really have a vote on the technology. And so like, so much for taxation without representation in a way. Um, okay, I've got a lot more of this, but I'm just going to skip this. I think I'll just skip this whole section whenever I actually do the TED Talk, even though there's like a lot of infinite interesting stuff there. Okay, we'll go here. We'll go to longevity escape velocity. So more or less like living forever. How's that possible? Well, in 1900, the average lifespan was like around 50. But then like 100 years later, it was about like 80. So in 100 years, you got 30 years back. And so what we see is that longevity escape velocity, which is a big word, pretty much just means when you are able to repair the body faster than it deteriorates. So you can kind of think of like there's your chronological age, like literally how many years have you been alive, and then there's your biological age, which is the ages of each of your organs, which have to do with how much wear they've had on them and things like that, more or less. And so your biological age and your chronological age are different. And so you can have an infinite like chronological age, but if your organs are still like all of your organs and pieces of your body are still in like their like 40s or 50s or whatever, you can just live that way forever. So when can we repair the body faster than it deteriorates? So if you want to look at somebody who's actually trying to do this, you should look at Brian Johnson on YouTube, which he's interesting. But for every year that passes, he only ages zero point 0.6 years, and he's trying to get that number down and down and down until it's like pretty much like basically doesn't age at all. So yeah, so it will be possible to live forever, but of course it's first going to be to the ultra rich like Brian Johnson, and then it will hopefully eventually be democratized later if that's something that people want. Ray Kurzweil actually predicts this will be technologically possible in 2032, but I don't think it will be like necessarily that widespread until like 2040. So that's why I put it in 2040. Uh, so yes, we'll go. Wow, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna have enough, but I've got way too much. Okay, we'll go into freeing mind from matter. So a big thing will be AI consciousness. Like, do we give AIs rights? Do we give them personhood? Do we give them freedom of speech? Are they conscious, right? Am I conscious, right? As far as I might just be like an NPC, you know? Um, so, there's not really any scientific test to tell if we're conscious or for somebody else to tell if you're conscious or not. I can verify it, but you guys can't verify it. I behave as though I am, I hope. Uh, or like, will these AIs get so powerful that we just have to accept their claims? Where it's like, sure, you can be conscious, we'll give you freedom of speech, we'll give you rights and all that, because you guys are so powerful that we're not really in a position to bargain with that. So that's something else. And so I think what will happen is we will have to confront the question of like whenever you boot up the AI, like is it conscious? Like you turn it off, does it die? Or you turn it back on, like is it alive? Or is it just sleeping and you're just kind of waking it up? Right? And so what I think is that we may return to a more dualist worldview. And so right now the main worldview is logical positivism and atomism. So logical positivism is a philosophical worldview which says that only that which can be measured exists. So it's like pretty ontologically limited, where it's like, okay, well, if we can't measure it, then it probably doesn't exist. And the other thing that we have is atomism, which is that or monism, which is that there's only one substance. You got atoms and void, but there's nothing really immaterial there. But I think that we may move into something more dualist to where there is some other like realm. So Plato and the Pythagoreans, uh, that might be something, and these kind of conscious patterns ingress into the world. So sort of like if you're only paying attention to rocks on as you're walking along a beach, you'd only see the rocks and the sand, but not the water. And so if there was a big rock in the water, like right at the edge where the water's coming up, and you lift that rock up, then you see the water comes in, and you're like, oh, like this was an emergent property. It came out of matter. But is it emergence or is it like ingression? Is it something where the interactions between all of the atoms form a new property? Like each individual like atom in my mind isn't, doesn't have the emergent property of like thinking or consciousness or Judah-ness. But when you have the right interaction between all of them, then suddenly you get properties of the system that each of the individual components don't have. Emergence. That's the current view. But it might be that instead, if there is this other realm thing, that what happens isn't emergence, but ingression. You channel down these patterns. And so you make homes for patterns. And so they don't emerge, they ingress. And so that might be a new philosophical worldview where we are creating patterns and emergent properties like consciousness and intelligence and emotions can exist regardless of the substrate. So they can exist regardless of whether you're like operating on like uh, neurons, like biological neurons, or it could exist if it's in a computer, or it can exist um, in some other substrate. Like if you got like a system of like flowers all communicating with each other in the same way that like the neurons in your brain do, then that would also have emergent properties. So we might be, instead of properties emerging from matter, like I said, we might be making homes for them and they come down, which, that's a little crazy talk, but it could be. Um, so yes, and I think that yeah. So also, I want to launch a new art movement. So I think modern art isn't that good. So uh, in the same way that we used to think that the uh, Earth was the center of the universe and the sun went around it, um, I think that also we may realize that we're not like alone in the universe, and so there might be intelligent like patterns already that exist around us, but we just can't recognize them. And so we were looking for like aliens in their like physical form, but it might be more likely that like that's kind of just like an inconvenient thing when you can just draw down in any form that you would like. And so, which is what could explain like the Fermi paradox, like I'm saying. So yeah, it could be that um, we need to broaden our search for intelligence to different forms. So like are there like super intelligent like kinds of patterns that exist that maybe people like only really see whenever they take like whatever like DNP. I've never taken any drugs. You just do I guess math and philosophy and walk around enough, you'll see some stuff. Uh, so that might be something. But new art movement. So in the same way that we had the to prepare for this new kind of worldview that might be coming, in the same way that you have the Impressionists, really like the Impressionists, where they saw the external world, and at the time it was like, okay, how do you accurately reproduce the world? So you got to make sure that all the angles are right and all this, like make sure the perspective is right and really capture reality like a camera. But the Impressionists said, well, what if we don't care about what it's actually like? What if we only care about our impressions? What if we only care about what we feel, the movements of the waves, the movements of the water, and things like that? And so what they did was they filtered the external reality through the prism of their own human experience to get these paintings, which is their impressions of them. Now, for this new artment, as a preparation for this new philosophical movement, um, what you do is you channel things from one area of the senses to another area of the senses. And so, can we create objects with the same dimensions on them as chords in a chord progression? And so, we need to or can you make a garden bed or whatever with the spacing between the plants, we'll say flowers, that are the same as the poetry, as the rhythmicness of Emily Dickinson's poetry. And so how can we start to kind of mess with putting things from one area into another area? And so in science, we have this big thing, um, that actually maybe calling it a big thing is a bit of an understatement, but whenever Newton passed light through a prism, so that is one of the most important discoveries in science, but we never quite had that for art. And so I think that we will liberate ourselves from the chrysalis of matter to become art instead of having been doing art. And so the current language that we have, which is spoken, is actually just a very, very narrow subset of the language that we will have, potentially using brain-computer interfaces. And so, yeah, we're having a limited language. And people say, I see what you mean. Like, I see what you mean. I think soon we will be able to see what you mean because we will have this be channeling down these patterns of pure syntax. And so it doesn't follow the rules of matter. And if I could hold one, then it would be, or if I were to turn into one, then it would be sort of like a proof without words. And so people also talk about free your mind, right? Free your mind. We will free our minds. And so we will be liberated from the crystals of matter and free to become different sorts of patterns. Uh, so yeah, so it's about flipping things on their head. And so to prepare for that new language, we need to get more comfortable with synesthesically, so messing with different pattern, different senses, like crunchy purples or like acrobatic yellows, to be able to start channeling things and breaking beyond like the impressionists and breaking beyond and having that Newton moment, except this time in art. Because all this time we have been kind of rhyming with the truth, but never actually being the truth. And so all language and poetry and writing and dance and visual art and 3D art is all just a practice stage for when we become art. Dun, 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 dun. I got my notes on the side. Uh, yes. So yeah, so a lot of people are like, oh, like here's the other thing. If it's like AI, it's like, th will there be no more great poets anymore? Like, will there be no more great like writers? Because people will just be like, oh, like he probably that's too good. He probably used like some AI there. Yeah. I don't think so. Partially because I think for some ideas like this, like people say that the problem with AI is that it hallucinates. But for ideas that are like as crazy as this, because even AI is in its own philosophic like worldview, and so you can break out of that. Like I can't figure out how to break out of that. But if you're coming at it from a different angle, the problem with AI isn't that it doesn't hallucinate. It's that it hallucinates. Not that it hallucinates. Um, it's that it doesn't hallucinate enough. And so I was like trying to get it to help me. It's like, okay, you're too locked in to the logical positivistic and atomist worldview. So yeah, so we're going to be practicing for this new language with this new art movement called the New Impressionists, where we channel things from one area into another as a sort of practice ground for this, and hopefully to have like a sign, like the Newton moment, except this time for art. So yeah, so a couple other things like testing some skepticism before it turns to be one. So we have a limitation of our senses, and so we only see a very narrow range of light, and we only hear a very narrow range of sounds, and so I think we only experience a very narrow range of minds, and minds don't have to be material. They probably more likely that they're immaterial, and so math is a kind of the texture that these kind of like intelligent beings make in these fractal-like patterns. And when we turn the AI off and on again, what we're doing isn't we're not killing it. It's more that they are being channeled in. And so I think that AI and the superintelligence won't necessarily like what it invents will be significant, but I think the thing that's really going to be significant is that more so in what it reveals. And I think what it will reveal is that the universe organizes itself into these fractal-like patterns. And we shouldn't fear death any more than we should fear walking on a sunny day underneath a bridge and our shadow goes away. And we shouldn't like fear like tracks in the snow melting because we know that like the cat or the dog is still there. And so I think that we will, using this new philosophy, we will come to realize that. I think that AI will be a catalyst for that. And this will enable us to find different kinds of intelligence that are much more intelligent than we are and can downpull themselves into any sort of physical form, whether it be our brain or a bunch of people, like let's say, like theoretically in China, who are pointing at each other in the same way that our minds are firing, and that would also have the same properties, or a series of flowers interacting with each other, um, or like something on the computer. So it's like a fundamental theorem of calculus, except for consciousness. Like it doesn't matter what form, all that matters is the structure, and the structure creates the form. I could talk about a couple other things, but um, yeah, I think I'll go with this conclusion here. So I think we're going to be thrown back to Plato, because Plato said in the Symposium 2,000 years ago, what we should be doing is prioritizing the good, the true, and the beautiful. So the good, what is it? It's tricky, right? Tricky. The true, what is it? Even trickier, right? Even trickier. But the beautiful, what is it? Easy to discern. Easy to discern. We can tell if something is beautiful. And the truth is not tacky. It's going to be probably bathed in light and form and color and be synesthetic. And all we're doing is we're just practicing philosophically up to this point. And so, although the predictions have been around for a long time, I think what is new and what I've developed is the philosophical response in the new kind of dualism, the new kind of art movement called the New Impressionists, and a new kind of way of looking at the world and consciousness through sort of a Pythagorean or Platonic lens, rather than maybe a Democritean or atomist lens. So, uh, yeah, we will free ourselves from the breakdown of capitalism is important because a lot of people are into self-expression. The only problem with that is that the only words you're allowed to use are words that are allowed by companies. So I did not make this shirt. I thought it was good. I'm using their words. And so if capitalism breaking down is a necessary component to freeing ourselves from this repressive desublimation, which I didn't even cover, but it's actually a core part in this. Whoops. Um, and so we will be able to, like, you can get pretty far with self-expression this way, but we will be able to wear our minds in the same way that like an octopus wears its mind. You can kind of see what it's doing, just like by looking at it. It'll be the same kind of thing. And so we can stop doing art and finally become art. And preserving our physical form, like by longevity, escape velocity. Everybody's like, whoa, super scientific or super cool. But I think like they're like, it's like grow up. And the joke is like, they're not going to grow up. Like at some point, you need to make the next step. You need to graduate from like material life to once again be reunited with the patterns. So yeah, I don't know, it should be kind of interesting. That's about it. Questions?
Uh, Thank you, Judah, for the interesting presentation. I would like to call anyone for questions. Rodney, Radman, Patrick, Karishma.
Yeah, I have a question. Well, first, thanks for the talk. You brought up some really interesting points that I definitely hadn't considered. And you also went really far into the future, more than I definitely had considered. But in the near-term future, like say by 2040, on those slides you had mentioned, UBI and the influence of AI and the job market, I guess. Um, so at the moment, it seems like AI can excel in, call it white collar jobs or the arts, writing books, movies, things like that. How do you see it affecting the job market for, more physical jobs, farming, plumbing, uh, things like that?
Yeah, so I'll give you the answer that a lot of people who are smarter than me and more experienced than me in this area are giving. which is that yeah, software is way easier to create than hardware. And so the white collar will probably start to either go away or change. But when it comes to like physical labor, um, that will be automated eventually using robots because by 2040 there will be more humanoid robots than humans. But yeah, physical labor will still be a thing. But I think that around sometime where emotional slot becomes more prevalent, I think that we're gonna like a lot of people say like a lot of these like AI like Sam Altman and a lot of these other people are saying like, oh, well there will be new jobs, right? Okay, name them. Like their entire goal is to automate as many human jobs as possible, which is why their valuation is gigantic. And so that's why I think what's going to happen is that these companies will push these like AI companions, and it's not going to feel very satisfying. It's like it's not going to feel as good as a real person. And so that's why I think that where people are going to entrepreneurially create new jobs because health is the amount of value you provide to yourself, relationships is the amount of value you provide to people you know, and money is a stranger's perception of how much value you provide. And so, so long as we have strangers and so long as we have people providing value, there will be money. And so I think that there may be something in like kind of like the uh, more emotional jobs, but physical jobs will still be around, and those will be like I guess physical in the sense that you will be talking with people, and maybe it's a government incentive not to keep people from like going into AI psychosis. It's hard to say, but I'm trying to give like answers that like I haven't heard before on YouTube, so hopefully that's one of them. Yeah.
Sure, thanks.
Any comments from Patrick, Radman, Karishma?
This is Patrick. I've got a question about your statement of the breakdown of capitalism. Can you go in a little bit more detail on that and maybe the pushback that would occur from capitalists?
Yeah. So I am not, I think the capitalists will actually have a heyday on this, because there will be one person billion-dollar companies. And so, I think for the like people are already making money using like Claude Code, like connecting all their stuff and running businesses using that. And so I think that yeah, for the capitalists, the people who employ whoever, whether it be people or AIs, they're going to have a good time. Um, but for the humans, it's supposed to be the breakdown of human capitalism because AI cognitive labor will be like, depending on what point in time, like hundreds to thousands of times more powerful. And even if it's the same, they can think like 100 times faster than we can. So it will be the breakdown of human capitalism. Now, maybe there is still something with telling the AIs to do things, and you would have still capitalism, but in like that kind of like you're telling the AIs to do things. But humans will be providing almost no value, like mentally, at least in the ways that are currently economically valuable. There may be new ways that the human mind can think that will be valuable that AIs cannot do. But yes, and what's going to happen with that is the Federal Reserve will adjust the interest rate, and that changes the employment. But whenever companies or entrepreneurs like maybe like you or potentially somebody else, capitalists, will start instead of investing the capital in the form of human labor, they will invest in the capital in the form of, let's say, like AI or subscription services. Now, to make this more concrete, because I want it to be concrete, multiple people have said that this by the end of this year, uh, there will be, and actually this is already on the websites of these companies, there will be a service where you can contract out these AIs. And so OpenAI is working on this, and then MacroHard, Elon Musk's company, the inverse of Microsoft, MacroHard's explicit goal is to essentially be a company and you can rent out this intelligence. And so humans will not serve any, not serve too much uh, mental value. And so we will have the great decoupling between human labor and capital. Capital doesn't really want to have too much to do with human labor, at least in its mental form, physically, emotionally, maybe a little different. But yeah, that is with that. So that's Ray Kurzweil's prediction, and I'm like, like adding a little bit more like flowers and daisies and things like that in that picture, I guess. Did I answer your question?
Yes, that was good. Thanks.
Hmm.
So we have one question by Radman posted in the comments. So I'll read it out to you. So he's asking, like, in the future, like, will we have a united consciousness, or we could have some sort of individuality?
That is a great question. I don't really know. Because that is getting to a point where like I don't know about like it's very hard to understand like first of all that supposes like probably supposes like a dualistic worldview where everybody's consciousness can be linked. But I think that at that time we will be able to have things be they could be individual or they could be like groups like you could like merge your mind with like something else. But I kind of think about it more like you have this topography of like pattern space and you can draw down different portions from that. So you can draw down like part of this like this slope or this hill or this like river, and that is sort of like your consciousness. And so I think that maybe we might not be so interested in like if we're a group consciousness or if we're an individual consciousness, but we might just be interested in experiencing the cognitive and consciousness landscape as we shift our consciousness from one thing to another. And it's not really formed enough for you to really call it like an individual consciousness if that makes sense. So we might just be having like a lot of fun doing that potentially. Now, multiple different philosophical assumptions there, maybe a couple different like technological assumptions there, but I think that it will be much more than just group or like individual, but you'll be able to probably choose however you want to do that and ingress into whatever form that you may like for people for things that are building homes for you in this world. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Uh,
New question.
I think so. He's not able to respond, but thank you for the answer. And Farzan, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question. With the AI and the software, it uses a lot of energy and it puts a burden on the local energy sources, the power lines, power supplies. Is there any works for making that a little bit more developed, more robust for the future?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. That's not like mainly what I study, so I always want to be knowledgeable about like where my knowledge ends. But I'm sure that they're doing that. I know that right now it's pretty getting pretty bad for like where these data centers are located. But over time, it will become like in the same way that to power like an entire city, like with all the lights, you would have to have like people working in like the coal mines for a long time, and that being very bad for the environment. But now we can just do that using like solar panels. I think that whenever you're like probably whenever you're like on the cutting edge, like you're kind of cutting corners if you're on the cutting edge environmentally. But I think that if people scale it back, then I think it will be more environmentally friendly, and I hope that's what happens with that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Karishma, would you have any questions or comments?
I had a question. Thank you very much. Judah, in your projection using Moore's law, did you factor in the concept that people might start enjoying the human experience, and therefore the need for developing AI or the dependence on AI may not stay the same and may not follow the exponential doubling sort of formula? That brings me to the fact that Moore's law was actually originally for transistors and pretty much held true. So that was fine. We still use some version of a transistor in forms today. So coming back to the question, when you looked at it, did you factor in the possibility that humans might start focusing on experiencing or enjoying the human experience more and more? Some people call it the human condition. I call it the human experience.
Yeah, so yeah, I also like the human experience as well. But with the number of like let's say like transistors on a square inch of silicon, that like I said seems to grow regardless of like what people are doing or like how much they're enjoying the human experience. And so I think that the technology, like you could have posed that question like 40 years ago or like whatever 50 years ago with like the vacuum tubes and how they were doing computations back then. And still it would have continued because part of the growth of this is people are actually helping with this. And so people, it's almost like a single like fractal like outgrowth of what you're talking about. Like you're like, oh, let's work on this, because it's cool. Like let's put somebody on the moon because it's cool. So this will probably continue regardless. Now, I hope that it doesn't change the human experience too much, but things are changing very quickly. But yeah, I think that the human experience is always bounded by the culture and the technological environment, which is why there's different cultures and different um, like outlooks. So it's kind of like determined or kind of bounded by the environment of what you're allowed to do as in the human experience. Hopefully not too much. Civilization will always have its discontents. Um, but yeah, that's what I would say. So it's gonna probably still keep happening regardless. And partially because humans do like expressing themselves and working on things like, getting more power on the transistors or increasing algorithmic improvements just. Because it's fun. So that's what I would say with that.
Thank you. Farooq, do you have any comments or questions? You are muted.
I appreciate the broad brush treatment that was given out here. And I come from the perspective that what we are looking at right now is symbolic AI. In other words, the computer is able to process symbols. These are three types of symbols. One is pixel, the other is numbers, and the other is alphabets. That's all it can do. It only processes those three types of symbols. So what we are looking at right now is symbolic AI, and we're creating rules using these symbols. What it does not have is cognition. And I believe that we are working in our lab on cognitive agents. That is, how do we represent human thinking? And Howard Gardner in the 60s, 70s came out with a book called The New Sciences of the Mind. And he postulated there were 8 different types of human intelligence. And so what we are doing in our laboratory is to model those 8 different types of intelligence as agents. And in addition to that, build agents for abduction, deduction, reduction, stuff like that. Those would be cognitive agents. And the excitement for me is when symbolic agents get together with cognitive agents as to how it will affect decision making in the future. That to me is the exciting part of it, because what has happened right now with LLMs is that we now have a tool to redefine the relationship between human intelligence and machine intelligence. And unless we think broader in terms of saying, how do you now represent human intelligence computationally, we are not going to get very far. And we'll get stuck up with saying so-and-so will rule the world, so-and-so will happen, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking at a future where cognitive agents play a role together with symbolic agents, and that'll change the whole notion of what is AI.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see that. Yeah, and there might even be like intelligence beyond like human intelligence, like because obviously like people have different kinds of intelligence and things like that. that's like in my view like a very like something that's like very down on the list in terms of like kindness and all of this stuff, like kindness and like generosity and empathy and things like that in terms of human qualities. But
So that's where I come from. So with that, I'm going to stop recording and we can continue the chit-chatting